Evening. We are live on our third live stream this week. Glad to have you with us, and thank you for joining us. We are, I'm Scott.
I'm Tina.
We're from Mississippi Family Homestead, and our intention on this live stream is for people that are looking at starting a homestead or maybe looking at starting to raise chickens to hopefully help you out and give you some information that we have learned and we'll learn from you as well.
Tonight we're going to be talking about hatching chicken eggs and why you would want to hatch your own chicken eggs instead of just buying baby chickens. Um, to me, it's just really satisfying to hatch your own eggs, and you'll know from the very beginning that you raised those baby chickens and you know they're yours from start to finish. And to me, it's almost like having a little baby or something,
It's like having a lot of pets with wings.
Yes, but to me, it's very satisfying to know that you've hatched your own chickens. You know what you're going to feed them from day one. You know the conditions that they're going to be in, that they're in good conditions where they're safe and clean, and you know the environment that they're coming from. And to me, it's awesome to hatch your own eggs.
And, if you have small children, it's really, I think it's nothing like them watching those chickens hatch. We've had on some of our live streams, we've live streamed the actual chicken hatching. And I
Yeah.
know some people that have had little small kids watch it and they've enjoyed it. And it's really a good learning experience too. You know, and you can't beat those farm fresh eggs either.
No, you can't. So that's one wonderful thing about the farm fresh eggs.
Unless you have an issue like us, and we've had a problem with the chickens not laying eggs. We talked about that earlier this week.
Yeah.
We're still working on that.
Yeah,
we
we
haven't
are.
had any progress yet, have we?
No, we hadn't had any progress yet, so we'll see.
30 chickens and one egg a day. So
Yeah,
they're on
yes.
strike.
It's a little bad right now.
So,
So
but tonight we're going to talk about actually hatching your own chicken eggs. We've done it quite a few times, and it's really fun. I think probably all of our chickens that have hatched here,
um, except for just a few of them.
the older ones.
Well, I ordered we
Oh
actually went to
yeah,
a farm and picked up some chickens. They are black copper morans, and then I have a cochin that we got from them. There was actually a lot more of them, but they did have issues, and a lot of them passed away. And that's another thing. You know what you're doing when you hatch your own eggs. You know where they come from, so you don't have to worry about those baby chickens dying or getting a disease or not knowing what kind of conditions they come from. My experience is great. I mean, I don't think I've had any die, that I've hatched myself, unless it was from a predator, or, I've had maybe a couple that were born with something maybe wrong with their leg. But other than that, I don't think I've had any that's just died, you know, after they've hatched, other than having
now
a
we have
problem.
had those that had the little leg problem though,
Yeah,
haven't we?
yeah, they had splay leg, and we had a problem with that, and I did have to put a couple of them down because of that. But that's a normal problem with chickens from anywhere. It's not, that they have a disease or something. They just kind of get something wrong with their legs
Yeah, that's
sometimes.
the sad part about
It
living on a
is.
farm and dealing with animals.
Yeah.
You're going to have that problem. You know, if you deal with a lot of animals. So
Yeah.
if you can't take that, you might want to rethink about hatching your own chickens. So
Yeah, it's really hard when you have a one that you have to put down, or a predator gets it or something like that. We try our best to keep ours predator proof, but it has
and we've
happened.
learned a lot on proofing for predators. Even with the new chicken coop we built, we thought it was predator proof. We found out it wasn't, but
Yeah.
we did fix those little problems, and you kind of have to fix every little
Nook
crack
and
in there.
cranny. Mm-hmm.
So,
So let's we'll talk about what our supplies are needed when we're hatching our own eggs.
all right. So first, why would you want to hatch your own eggs?
So you would want to hatch them for the experience, for the farm fresh eggs, and you might want to build a specific breed, that is going to lay a lot of eggs. There's several breeds that lay their own eggs, and you can hatch your own and know where they came from. And also, let's talk about your supplies you're going to need. So the supplies that you need is, first of all, you need your Nature Right 360.
Or any incubator.
You
This is
can.
just one that we like.
Yeah. So we love the Nature Right 360. It does great for us. We've had very good luck with the incubator and it hatching eggs, and so we really really have had good luck with it. Our cat's distracted me. He's decided he's gonna come and
This is actually our second one. I think we had the other one for a while and just
Yeah.
kind of wore it out.
yeah. So yeah, I had to kind of get rid of it. It kind of was getting old. So this is our second one, and I actually ordered it off of Amazon. So it's done really good. You want to make sure you get an incubator with an egg turner. Unless you're just going to oversee your eggs, all the time. Most of them now do come with the egg turner. You can turn them yourself, but it's just kind of hard to do that, to keep up with it. They do have to be turned several times a day. So I do suggest you get an incubator with the egg turner, and don't get the cheapest brand that you can get for an incubator. They don't do well. I have tried some of those cheaper ones, and they didn't do well at all. So make sure you have one that's going to do a good temperature, good humidity, and that has that egg turner. And this one's great because you can see when the eggs hatch, and you can also check your water levels pretty well, and make sure that your turner's moving. Some of them are kind of enclosed, and it's hard to see whenever your chickens are hatching. So that's one reason I like this one too.
There's only one disadvantage of this one. When you open, after you have a few of them in there and you open the lid, you got to be careful
Yeah.
that they don't come out.
Yeah,
all
they'll
come
hop
out at one
out.
time.
Another, disadvantage might be that I guess it would be with really any incubator, but if you leave those eggs in there after it hatches, it smells really bad. So just be prepared for that. Hatching chickens is not always, fluffy little chick running around. There are pros and cons to that. So you're going to have some smells, and you're going to have some things going on with those baby chickens.
We're getting invaded by cats. We've got one back here. So, but one thing to start with, obviously, you've got to have eggs. So, you may wonder, well, can I get will an egg from a grocery store do, or something like that?
Yeah.
So what? You got to have a fertile egg. So how do you make sure? How do you find those?
Okay, so obviously, if you already have your own stock and a rooster, you're going to have your own fertilized eggs. So that's one way. If you'll look around at a local breeder, if you're in a bigger state, sometimes there's local breeders. We actually have a few in Mississippi that we can go to and buy eggs if we wanted to. Look around. If you're not real concerned about the breed of your chicken, there's several people that have chickens nowadays. People just seem to like to raise their own chickens, especially out in the country where we are. And you can go to them and just say, hey, do you have a rooster and some fertile eggs? Can I have some, to hatch? And usually, from experience, I know that I have hatched eggs for our neighbors, and they were glad that, I was able to do that for them. And so if you ask a neighbor, they'll usually give you fertilized eggs. The other option is you can order hatching eggs, which is what I've done several times. It does get a little expensive if you're going to order hatching eggs. because the shipping alone is like $40 for them to ship those eggs. It's not so much even, the egg itself, it's the shipping that's so expensive. Just make sure that if you order those eggs that you're ordering them in a good season, not real hot and not cold. So usually in the springtime, or you can order them in the in the fall, in the early fall.
But if you want those special breeds, that's really what you'll probably have to do.
Yeah,
is get those eggs. I mean, unless you get the chickens already grown, already hatched. But
now you can get starter pullets, but they also can cost a pretty penny if you're ordering those from a breeder, because they have to ship those to you, and again, you're paying shipping costs for those starter pullets.
So if you've got one of these, let's go through how to set it up.
Yeah, so if you've got one of these, you're gonna
And here's a video. This is part of our. It doesn't have any sound, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. So you're gonna plug it up 24 hours before you're ready to put your eggs in there, and you're gonna check your temperature, your humidity, and your egg turner to make sure it's turning. Your humidity is between 55 to 65 from day 1 to day 17. Your temperature is always 99.5 for the whole incubation period, and you're going to add water to on this incubator, so it will help with your humidity levels.
And one of the tricks that I noticed you do is on the water, you put food coloring in there.
Yes, I do put food coloring in my water, so that way you won't have to take the lid off, and you can see down in there what your water level is. It'll just kind of help you with that. So now when you get ready to set your eggs up to get them ready for hatching, there are a few things that you need to do. They need to be in a egg carton or in a place where you can have them for 12 hours, and they need to sit for 12 hours point side down. Also, you don't want to get any dirty eggs or anything like that. And also, you don't wash the eggs. You do not wash the eggs. You cannot hatch eggs from the grocery store, just so you know, because those are cold. If they've been cold, they won't hatch. So that's one thing that you need to keep in mind. So you're going to let them set for 12 hours, just point side down, and then you're going to get ready to put them in the incubator.
Okay. So sorry about the camera. I think I hit a button over here. But so as we go through, we start out, you're going to have, you set your eggs up, and like you just talked about, and then you're going to have day 1 through 17. And this is kind of the video of setting the eggs up.
Yeah, so you're going to take those eggs and put them point side in your incubator and make sure you have that water already added to your incubator so your humidity will acclimate as soon as you put your lid back on. But yeah, you're going to put those in point side in. Now, these are actually Bantam eggs that you're looking at on the screen that I had ordered from Meyer Hatchery, and I did have a good hatch rate on those. They did wonderfully. So
yeah, they shipped them, and all the eggs were in good shape. So they turned out pretty good. So as we get to once you put the eggs in, as you see here, you'll get to day
1 through 17.
1 through 17.
So on day 1 through 17, you need to check some things during that period. So you'll want to make sure that your temperature stays at 99.5, and normally it does as long as the lid stays on here. The incubator is really good at keeping that temperature. The one thing that you'll have, you may struggle with is keeping that humidity between 50 to 65. And it's okay if it drops a little bit, but it really needs to be consistent. So make sure you're checking the water, every day during that process. that's really all that you can do, during that process is to just check those things to make sure that you have a good hatch rate.
Now, one of the things is candling, when you get into it. So what's the purpose of candling?
Okay, so the purpose of candling to see if your eggs are actually viable, if you have a little baby chicken in there. So the first candling that you want to do is on day 7, and the other one is on day 14. So on day 7, when you're candling, you're going to see a little black dot in there. And that's your little baby chicken's eye, actually, is what you see in there. And
Now,
you'll
this
see.
is day 7, right?
Yes. So you'll
Okay.
see some movement in there and that little baby chicken moving around in there. If you don't see anything and the egg looks clear, and the best way to tell that is just candle you an egg before you start incubating it, so you'll know what it looks like when there's no baby chicken in there. And that's why you can tell, when you're actually start candling as to whether or not you have a little dot in there that's moving around. There'll be veins in there also that.
Now, is this one day 14? This egg? It looks kind of dark.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's day 7 or day 14. But you can definitely tell a difference between day 7 and day 14. If you have a dark egg that you're trying to hatch, it may look like this one because it's hard to tell what you're hatching. So my suggestion is when you're first starting to hatch eggs that you do not use dark eggs, that you use a lighter colored egg at first. That way, you become used to how that egg is doing and how it's developing in there. So you're going to candle on day 7, and then you're also going to candle on day 14. So you want to look to make sure that you actually have movement in there. And on day 14, you should really be able to tell, this baby chicken is alive in there. It's moving around in there, and there's some good veins and stuff in there. And it will kind of look like that's an egg right there that is not fertile that we're showing on the screen now.
Well, it's got something
Oh,
in it.
does
though.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe that's one that didn't make it or something.
It may have been.
Depending on what day this is.
Yeah, I think that one is not moving. I think that's a bad egg. So, just be aware that you are going to get some bad eggs normally when you're trying to hatch eggs, especially if you order them. Sometimes those have only a 50% hatch rate when you're ordering them. But you'll candle on day 7 and then again on day 14 to check for movement in your eggs. You want to look for anything that looks really strange. You'll see some dark circles sometimes, or just something that doesn't look quite right in your eggs. So,
and this one, that's definitely day 14. I think you can kind of see it moving if you look real close. It's
Yep.
And you want it when you candle them. You kind of want to do it quick.
Yeah, don't take your lid off while you're candling. And
okay, there's one that's, if you leave it still, you can tell it's got a little movement.
Yeah. So it's moving around in there. It looks kind of full when it gets to day 14.
It's amazing how a chicken fits in that little egg.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is how that chicken fits in there. Now let's talk a little bit about your temperature and your humidity. Just keep in mind that if you're 1 degree too high, it can cause issues. You'll have an early hatch, or they may have splayed leg or anything like that. And if you're 1 degree too low, then they may have crooked toes and unhealed little navels. So if you're really, really high in temperature, that will cause your chickens not, to hatch at all. It's fatal to them. And they won't hatch.
So you do want to watch that real closely, and
yeah,
plug the incubator up for a day or two before, and just kind of make sure it's stable, make sure everything's working, and you can kind of learn a little bit without any eggs in there.
Right. So, during that candling process, if you do find any egg that, is not viable, it's not moving, not doing anything, or it may just, have a ring in there, there's no veins, it looks like it's not moving, you want to remove those eggs from your incubator, because what can happen if you leave them in there is that they'll rot and they'll bust. Now, what I do sometimes on day 7, if I find an egg that I'm not, sure about, I'll put it back in the incubator. But by day 14, you're aware if that egg is not going to hatch or not. You can tell by looking at it that it's just not viable and it's not alive. So then I will take it out on day 14 if it's not alive.
Okay, and then on day 18, what do we get to?
Okay, so on day 18, we call that lockdown day. And you're going to remove your egg turner from the incubator. And
now, not all incubators have a removable one, right?
No, well, most of them do nowadays. Some of them
Okay.
don't, but just keep in mind you want to turn off whatever mechanism is on there that makes those eggs turn, because on day 18 they just need to be still and get ready for the hatching process. So you'll remove that egg turner, put your eggs in there. You want to still try to keep them pointed like you had before, with the big side to the outside and the pointy end to the inside. And I try to keep them in the same position, and just lock that incubator down. You don't want to open your incubator on that day. Some people like to candle them on day 18, but I don't really see a need for that. If they're viable on day 14, most of the time they're going to hatch on day 21 when they get ready to hatch.
Okay. So, and then coming up, you've got hatch day, and, that's the best part of it. And it starts out with this little pip right here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But one more thing. I'm going backwards a little bit. On day 18, you're also going to want to add more water to reservoir B, because on day 18, your humidity has to go up from 55 to 65. You need it to go up to about around 75%. So just make sure that you don't forget to add that extra water. And on our incubator, it actually has an A and a B, and you want to add the water to B on the incubator. You want your humidity to go up.
All right. So back to hatch day. This is where it really gets interesting.
Yes. So
And you'll probably be nervous during this day.
yeah. So on hatch day, at first, you should see, sometimes it happens on day 20 and sometimes on day 21. You'll see a little pip on the egg, and that's the external pip. Now, there's a lot of things that happen to that egg during this process. Yeah, right there is the pip. So there's actually two things that happen. There's actually an internal pip first. So the chicken hatches through the membrane of the egg, and there's a little pocket in there that gives them air. And then after a little while, they pip through the outside of the egg. But they don't hatch immediately after they pip that outside of the egg. It usually takes up to 12 hours, sometimes less, sometimes more, for them to actually hatch out of the egg. So that first little pip, you may get excited and be ready for that chicken to hatch, but it actually does take a while for that chicken to hatch out of the egg.
It takes forever when you're waiting on it.
Yes, it does. So once they've done their little pip and you've waited a little while, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's 7 or 8 hours, but sometimes it is 12. They'll start doing like what is called a zipping process, and they'll actually turn around in that egg and go around that egg and hatch themselves out of that egg, which is the most amazing part to me, because you can see that action and that chicken actually hatching out of the egg. It's just really, really amazing when you watch that little chicken turn that circle and then just push itself out of that egg. You think, how does it know to do this? But Yeah, I like to call them little miracles because to me it is when that
I
chicken.
mean, you think about it; those
Yeah,
you can kind of see a little the chickens in the background, but those chickens just several hours ago were in an egg that size.
yeah, and it's just like amazing to me as they hatch out of that egg.
So, yeah, that is real interesting. And we'll look at this one
Hatching out of
hatching
the
right
egg.
here.
So, some things you want to remember during hatch day. There are things that you do not want to do. You don't open the incubator, no matter how hard, how bad you want to. The chick can get out of the egg most of the time. Um, if your chicken is stuck in the egg for more after the zipping process for more than a couple of hours, then you can think about helping the chick, but please don't do it unless he's stuck in that zipping process for more than 2 hours.
Because normally you try not to ever do it, right?
Right, right. You try. I think I've had to help one hatch out of the egg, and it was because he was a big chicken. He he came out of a large egg, and I guess he was a large chicken, and I did have to help him a little bit out of his egg. So you don't want to open the incubator, no matter how bad you want to until that chicken is hatched out of his egg. Um, so don't help them. And don't remove the chickens until they're completely dry and fluffy because they can get cold really, really, really easy. Now I do after my all of my little chicks have hatched, I do kind of remove those eggshells from there and then let them finish drying out in that incubator. But they can survive for 48 hours.
Now, this right here is one that for some reason the eggshell just stuck on him forever or her,
Yes, yes.
and you had to kind of remove it.
Yes, I just got some little snip scissors and removed the eggshell from the little baby, and it was perfectly fine.
But you kind of want to wait on that to make sure
Yeah,
it's
let it fluff up a little bit. I mean, I waited. I let it fluff up, and I kept thinking that it would, fluff up and that eggshell would fall off, but it never did. So I had to kind of help it with that process.
And then towards the end of it, you hopefully you have little chickens, and then you move on to the brooder.
Yeah.
And we've got videos on how to build a brooder. So that's to keep. You got to keep them warm and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
After the fact, but when you open this is the only thing about this one is you got to be so careful to grab the chicken and so the other ones don't fall out.
Yeah, it is kind of hard on that when you're getting those out of the incubator.
And that's what you end up with, the little chickens.
Yes,
in the
they're
box.
just like cute as they can be. Now you may be, if you're hatching eggs for the first time and there were some things that went wrong, like late hatching, then that means that your temperature may have been too low and you need to give them some extra time. So don't give up on the egg until after day 23. I have had a chicken hatch on day 23, and that's actually my rooster that I got out there. His name's Nick. And he hatched on day 23. We thought
we didn't think he was going to hatch.
No, we didn't, but he did. He came busting out of that egg. And he's how old is he now? Like he's 5? He's 5 years old. Yeah. So he's
I
still
think
going.
it was our first live stream we did, our first hatching video.
Yes,
it did it up too long, so it's not archived on here, but it was real interesting.
It really, really was.
So if you get this, let's go over the pros and cons of this incubator if you decide to get it. Now you can get other incubators. This is just one that we are comfortable using, but there are many other good incubators out there.
Yeah. So now some pros to that is that it's clear, so you can kind of see in there while your chickens are hatching. It has the automatic egg turner, so you don't have to worry about it. It has a built-in candler. It works pretty well. I actually like bought my own self a candler because it just does better. I can hold it in my hand. It's kind of hard sometimes to take the lid off and put your egg on top of here if you're, trying to candle it and then getting it put back in there. So I just like to have a handheld egg candler, but this egg candler does work great on this incubator. The other thing is that it has done a really good job of keeping the humidity and the temperature correct for the whole hatching process. And we've had a good hatch rate with it, and it's not really expensive, and it's not cheap. So, if you're wanting to hatch eggs for the first time, and it lasts, I feel like our other one that we had lasted for 4 years, I think. I felt like it was getting old. It was still working, but I felt like it was getting old, so I decided to get a new one. So these do last also. And the thing that I don't like about it is, like he was saying, that it doesn't have a little lip on there. So when your baby chickens, they hatch, and then you try to get them out of the incubator, you kind of have to be careful, because if it'll hatch 22 chickens. So if you have all those little baby chickens on there and you
22 would be a lot in there.
Yes, it would. It'd be a lot. It can hatch that many, but I've never hatched that many. I think the most that I've hatched is probably about 12 maybe in this incubator. It's just, I don't like to overcrowd them. I feel like if you put too many in there, they don't do as well. So that's a con, I guess you would say, for it. Also, when your humidity level goes down or off, the alarm on it is really, really loud. So just be aware of that. So, but we really, enjoy hatching our eggs, hatching the little baby chickens. We really,
now,
really
one
do.
thing I want to mention, I don't know if you mentioned this, but think about how many chickens you want to hatch, because you don't want to put a ton of eggs in there if you can't, if they're going to all hatch, and you don't know what to do with them. You got to,
right.
You don't want to put 24 eggs in there and most of them hatch, and then you got to worry about that many chickens.
That's right. So you want a good amount to start out with is probably about 12.
Now, does that mean you'll have 12 chickens?
Not always. Especially,
like some people can't have that many chickens.
Yeah,
you might just want just a few chickens.
Yeah. So, but I wouldn't do just 1 or 2 eggs either, because they do need to, to have some companionship.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about yesterday, they like to be sociable. They like to have other chickens around, and also it helps them keep warm, especially in the wintertime. So you do want to have some companionship there. Now, what I've done for the last 2 times is I've put 10 eggs in there, and my Bantams chickens, my little silkies out there, 8 of them hatched out of 10, which was really great. And then my last set, I did 10 eggs, and 6 of them hatched out of the 10.
So we have a live stream that we do daily, and that camera is in the silky chicken coop.
Yes.
So, and those chickens were hatched here. They were hatched in a incubator. I think it was in the other one, but it was one just exactly like this.
Yeah.
So those chickens were hatched in there. The other thing, there's another problem is you got to be prepared that if you have too many roosters.
That's right. So you don't want to have too many roosters. So if you're hatching your own eggs, be prepared to get rid of, most of your roosters, especially if you don't have very many eggs that you're hatching, because you can only have 1 rooster to 10 hens. So just make sure and be prepared for that.
Yeah, that's always that's one of the bad things about hatching your own eggs.
And when you're living on a farm like that, some people, they cull their roosters, and we don't choose to do that. We usually try to give them away or do something with them, but some people do.
As a matter of fact, we had a very mean rooster that was just We kept him for a long time wandering around.
Yes, we
And
thought that if we let him out of the chicken pen that he would, something would happen to him because he was so mean. And he lived for, I don't know, 2 years outside of the chicken pen just by itself, wandering around the yard. So, just be prepared for those roosters.
yeah, have a plan of what you're going to do with the extra roosters if you get them.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's helped you. If you're deciding to raise some chickens tomorrow night, I think we'll talk about just overall homesteading. If you're thinking about getting a homestead or starting a homestead, and we'll talk about that. And if you have any questions or any comments, just let us know in the chat if you watch this on the replay. And do you have anything else?
I guess that's all. So
All right.
tomorrow night we'll be talking about our homesteading. So please join us tomorrow night if you want to learn more about how we got started, in homesteading and how you might can do that.
And we obviously started kind of late in life. I can't go back. I wish we'd have started earlier, but maybe, depending on what age you are, you could start at any time. So, there's a lot of young or older homesteaders out there. So, we invite you to join us tomorrow night. We're going to start around 7:30 Central. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.